People, deluded, I'm back again now. First things first, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in some cases, good night. Hope you lot around the world are doing well and safe. Big up the DG Nation, appreciative of all of your support, and therefore appreciate you lot who watch my content and all of those things, man. So, as I said, smash the like button, leave a comment, and all of that good stuff. Now, some might call me negative. They might call what I'm about to say throughout this live stream negative. I just call it being honest. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I wish we were sat here still in all trophies, won the League Cup, having a great position where the Premier League is concerned. Unfortunately, it's now out of our hands. You can tell me what you want until it blew in the face. I do think Manchester City are going to drop points. I can't tell you when, probably Bournemouth. I do think Arsenal are going to drop points. Arsenal, need to win every game. And I think you're better off hoping Arsenal win every game and City dropping points. It goes down to goal difference. We can barely scratch a win together. A man are telling me about 2, 3, 4 goals and all of these kind of things. We've only got ourselves to blame. We have to do ideal scenario syndrome. There's a world where there's no pressure playing Manchester City, but I don't want to be that guy. I know, and disclaimer, I always have to say it. Let me grab some water. Let's get some more. Now, I do have to say it. Nobody expects to win every game. Everybody knows you win, lose, and draw. Sometimes you win when you don't deserve to win. Sometimes you lose when you deserve to win. Sometimes you gain a point in terms of a draw, whether you deserve a point, all 3 or less. That's the nature of the game. But ultimately, throughout the course of a season, you get what you deserve. And us is on course for second. We're a good team. We're never on the right side of the fine margins. Now, again, I'm going to circle back over these things, but you have to sit there and wonder, in fact, before I continue, what I would say is notice how obviously we're negative about the result, the performance. No, sorry, we're negative about the result, what it means, all of that kind of stuff, people. But notice how you all lost to Bournemouth and you lost to Manchester City, but you got applauded by the away fans. Everybody said, including myself, the performance was there beyond the obvious. Clearly, we didn't keep enough balls out the back of our net or put enough in the back of City's net. But the performance was there. It wasn't there against Bournemouth, and that's the shame. Tactically, isolated to Manchester City beyond the obvious. Mikel Arteta, you got it right. There's not too many times where I can say, fair enough. I was impressed with the man-to-man marking our approach in the first half. Players, I can't fault your ambitions and aspirations in that regards. The problem is it's too little, too late. That's the honest truth. It's too little, too late. That needed to come 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, if I'm completely honest. And as I was saying, without talking about ideal scenario syndrome and talking about fine margins, because we're a good side. We need to be a great side. There isn't too much at this moment statistically. Obviously, I'm not talking about players and managers and all of that, but points on the board, there's not much separating Arsenal and City. But notice how, whether it's the knockout stages of the Champions League or in certain games like yesterday, we compete. It looks even. They had chances. We had chances. Maybe Haaland's goal should be disallowed. Magalhaes could have been and should have been sent off. So maybe that's all balanced out. But we're never on the right side of the fine margins. And when it is do or die, name me a time when it's been a do or die. Unfortunately, when it's been a do or die game with this current Arsenal crop in the last few years, when it's do or die, sink or swim, what's been the outcome? And again, you do have to think, and this is why I always say compartmentalize things. So like first half of the season when we're dropping points, yes, there's a lot of games to go, but you do have to wonder between the players and Mikel Arteta, the second half against Liverpool, Gaffer, if he was a bit more proactive, we get out Anfield with a point, which is a lot better than none. The approach against Liverpool at the Emirates, the Manchester United game for Arsenal for Arsenal's manager Mikel Arteta, and the players and the gaffer. At the end of the day, yes, it was a different sentiment, but it's another year, in fact, where Anfield, I'm wanting more from the performance. Etihad, I'm wanting more from the performance in terms of 3 points. Stamford Bridge, 3 years in a row, woeful account of ourselves. 15 minutes away from getting all 3 points, one of the best defensive sides in Europe we are. 15 minutes away from winning the game against Sunderland. You went and drew, conceded a goal in the last minute against Aston Villa, which I know these things happen, but had we, and throw in the Bournemouth game, throw in Manchester City at the Emirates as well, which the players you fucked up for the goal we conceded, but that kind of hands-off approach that we saw in the second half at the Emirates against City, had that been there in the first half when they were, not the City side you're seeing right now, you might have had more points on the board. We could have been anything from 3 to 12 points ahead of Manchester City going into this game, in which it still would be a do or die. You want to see us rise to the occasion, all of that kind of jazz, but it would look a lot differently. At the end of the day, Mikel Arteta and the players, you only have yourselves to blame. And all the banter, we all know a lot of rhetoric around this football club is dishonest. You know, give us our. I wish we lived in a world where the things we do bad, get on to us about it. The things we do good, give us our fair due. We all know there's an element of people that just want to poke fun at Arsenal, that just want to get away from misery of their team. A lot of dishonestness from YouTubers and in the media, right? We know about that. But in terms of the banter and the proper footballing men and women out there that have criticisms of this Arsenal team, it is there. Like, it's there. And you have to hold that, players. Because I'm being a bit harsh, but you can't have wanted to be in a different scenario, or we don't do the same things we've been doing. There's nothing new that the good about you, the bad about you. There's nothing I've learned this season. There's nothing I've learned from you, Mikel Arteta, and these players. I'm speaking in absolutes. There's nothing. If we want to get to a realm we've never been before, everybody's got to be something they've never been. Who can look around in that dressing room and say they're a different animal? Who? Because whether we win, lose, or draw, it's the same 3 to 4 players that we can say, all right, you lot try the thing. And again, I'm past the point of moaning and shouting and doing all of that stuff. My handwriting's horrible, yeah, but I'm a big fan of articulating your thoughts. So what I'm going to read out is what I'm attributing to Mikel Arteta and the players. Now, for Mikel Arteta, you've not evolved as a manager. You've not. You've not. We talk about the players evolving and learning from experience. You've not. There's been times when it's been, you know, with the exception of City, which is up there. City away, Newcastle away. They're the 2 times I thought, all right, the tactical approach, everything was great. But too often than not, for every one of those games, there's others where you've not changed, where you've taken off players where you don't need to be, where you've, you know, there's certain things. But, you know, in terms of your evolution, in the same way, if you're, people can be silly. People that understand football know where I'm going with this. If you're Bukayo Saka or Lamine Yamal, for example, great players, obviously Yamal's better than him, but great players, whatever, yeah. If you're looking at the best in your industry, are you not going to look at the best right wingers that have been there in the 5-10 years? So relating it back to the manager, or if you're Declan Rice, are you not going to look to learn things from a Paul Scholes, I don't know, a Paul Scholes, a Frank Lampard, a Steven Gerrard? You're naturally going to look at people, and you might not be on their level ever, but that's certain things that they do on the pitch, off the field. You're going to try and behave like them, right? The same goes for the manager. Now, obviously, the manager has to have his own ethos and all of these kind of things. But if you want to be the best, you also have to beat the best, but you also can learn from the best. And I think you could learn from 2 of your fellow Spanish managers, one being Pep Guardiola, one being Luis Enrique. Where Luis Enrique is concerned, he does what you do on steroids. He micromanages everything on that football field. But at some point, he goes, you know what? This is what I want to do collectively with the players. I want you to stand here and do that. But then he recognizes, I've got some dangerous wingers, dangerous attackers. Let's put them in scenarios where they can. They've got that freedom within their framework, from defense and how their fullbacks play to the midfield, the starting positions from their, sometimes their 6 is the highest up the field, not to mention their attack. Obviously, the ability is in abundance at Paris Saint-Germain. So don't take it literally, but you get the point. Football fans know where I'm going with this. Now let's bring back Pep Guardiola. Not going to sit here and sing Pep Guardiola's praises. We'll be here all night. The man's been there, done it many times over, innit? But you look at his philosophy, yeah? You could argue that 3 players currently in that team do not fit his philosophy. Because when we talk about our players, it's always, they have to be Arteta's players. You could argue Pep Guardiola, who, you know, has been there, done it, wore the T-shirt, has every God-given right to be stubborn and double down in his principles and not change at all, yeah? There's 3 players that play for Manchester City right now, yeah, where there are exceptions to the rule in a positive way. But on paper, yeah, you remember when Pep Guardiola came in and he got rid of Joe Hart for Claudio Bravo, and he cares about a ball-playing keeper, right? Donnarumma is not a world-class ball-playing goalkeeper. In terms of being a traditional keeper, his CV speaks for itself. But there was something in his game that made him think, oh, you're not my keeper on paper, but I need you to do a bit of it, but I'm going to bend the team towards you in your own way. I'm going to hide your limitations and I'm going to enhance your strengths in it. And you could see his ball playing was at risk yesterday, right? Erling Haaland. Yes, it's Erling Haaland, but especially in this day and age where strikers got to drop deep, link up play, that's not a Pep Guardiola forward. He's found a way to go against his own footballing philosophies. Ryan Cherky, great player. Bobby Dazzler, 30-odd million quid versus 55 for Noni Madueke. Wenger, talk to your boy, because you didn't go through those blood, sweat, and tears at the Emirates for us to spend over 100 million on Kai Havertz and Noni Madueke. But you get the rhetoric. You know, Cherky, very boisterous, all of these kind of things. Not really a Pep Guardiola player, but with those 3 players, he's made it work. Mikel Arteta, I haven't seen it, because collectively what we're doing, especially in attack, it's romantic, it's poetic, but when I remove all the emotions, it doesn't make sense. We're still talking about, is it Gyökeres or is it Kai Havertz, in which all the other facets of the system Kai did. Kai's goal sums him up, pressed well, done all of that. The chances he missed summed him up. We are not going to get to where we need to get to if Kai Havertz is a key player like that. And I'm not making it just about Kai. I'm just looking at what the manager's doing here. We already had unanswered questions in attack, so we brought in more players. And you're getting players, and they look like square pegs in round holes, whether I rate these players or not. Gyökeres might not be the answer, and he's still scoring goals at this moment in time. But the man, has bagged for Coventry, bagged for Sweden, bagged for Sporting Lisbon, won the Gerd Muller Award. We know there's a lot of taxes that have to be applied the way teams set up, the Premier League, the conversion rate between the Portuguese league to us. Why is it here he struggled? Zubimendi, no one could tell me nothing. I think he's a good player. No one could tell me he's not wavy on the ball. Why have you signed for Arsenal? We're complaining about you passing the ball forward. Surely there's something with the system. Why is it only now that both Gyökeres, but moving on this towards Eze, why is it only now Eze looks like the player he looks like in the Crystal Palace highlights? Now, these players have to answer things. It's never just one person's fault, but you get the point. You can't stand in the rain and complain you're wet. So, unfortunately, Arteta, you've not evolved. You've not evolved as a manager. The system's not evolved. We've still got a great defense with a mixed midfield and a mediocre attack. Again, I will cut you the luxury of a lot of these boys are playing for club and country. Games at club and country level are getting more expanded. There is an element of unluck with injuries. Players need to look after themselves. But at the end of the day, you've got more players, and we find ourselves in the same scenario with not being able to call upon them. And then obviously, for whatever reason, April isn't good to us, but we've now rocked up in April and a lot of players are not in their great physical condition. Even Kai Havertz, technically Martin Odegaard, technically Benjamin White, and the list goes on. And granted, that's going to be there at this point of the season, but we've arrived in the most decisive period where all your hard work is quickly being undone. Players are not in the right conditions. And that's not an excuse, people, if I'm completely honest with you. So like I said, people, we're still debating and having certain conversations. There's no woe is me. This is just, unfortunately, the reality. And then I look at my players, because I can't just get at the manager. Chelsea away, Liverpool ×2, United at home, Sunderland away, Villa away, City at home versus City away, and also Bournemouth. Players, I'm not being funny, and it all goes to the manager. And I'm not saying to do this, but everyone remembers Declan Rice's free kicks against Real Madrid, right? Everybody's seen the interviews, right? Yeah, and that would have been fine margins, because on paper, we all saw his interview. He said the coaching staff saying put the ball in the box. But he said, you know what, I'm going for this. How many times you see that from the players? How many times? At some point, you have, to a certain degree, 5% more. You don't need to say, fuck Arteta and his tactics, bro. I'm him. I'm letting my nuts hang. I'm doing this thing. I do think you lot have mentality. I don't think you lot are pushovers. I don't think you lot are soft. Like how I've seen soft Arsenal sides. You do crumble, but I don't think you lot are soft. But you lot are not nasty enough, bro. Nobody say, like Cherky pisses off Pep Guardiola all the time. He still does things, and Pep's not an idiot. He knows that I have to kind of bend the need towards Cherky a tiny bit. But the very things that frustrate me about Cherky is the very things that are the reason I bought him at this football club. So sometimes you need to go against the grain. Not enough of you. I'm not asking all of you lot to bang it from 30 yards. But whether it's the players like Declan who have shown you can stand up to be counted, mainly my attackers, nobody's doing nothing. Nobody's doing nothing. Nobody's going against the grain. Nobody's saying, I'm him, I'm making it happen. And if I'm completely honest with you, I don't think you lot are pussy holes. I don't think you lot are soft. But you man are good youths. Man are good youths. You look over there at City, everyone's a bastard. A lot of you boys at Arsenal, if I had a daughter and she was going out with one of you lot are all good guys, you're going to look after her, you're going to do that, but you got no edge. You got no nastiness. Look through the City team. Rodri's a bastard. Bernardo Silva's a bastard. Cherky's a twat. And I like it, Cherky, Sunday League, you have to end up fighting him, because the worst thing ever is playing a player that has the ability and he's just chatting shit to you all the time. Cherky's a twat. Haaland's a cunt. Bernardo's a bastard. Rodri's a bastard. And the list goes on and on and on. Many people that are Arsenal legends, it's not even an ability thing. Many people that were Arsenal legends that are holding high regards were nasty cunts. You lot are not that. And you lot have to be that. All you need to do is look at teams that have won shit. The Chelsea sides, the Arsenal sides, the Liverpool sides, the United sides, they had that bastardry in them. They would fight each other and fight the team, the opposition. So this is where we're at, man. Like, nobody's a bastard. Nobody's saying, fuck the tactics, I'm winning this. I'm him. It's dead. Like, set pieces have gone. We're not on the right side of fine margins. We're not able to find goals. Mikel Arteta as well, going back to you in terms of evolution. You don't let your nuts hang. Why are you taking off Eze? Because I actually think Eze is playing all right. Defensively a bit shoddy. Definitely criticized him in my reaction for the first goal, amongst others. And also, players are not following runners. Going back to the players, you lot are not following runners. You lot are not compact enough. There's not enough individual brilliance. No one wants to be a protagonist. It's you lot out there that got to do it, you know. Everything around this club has been geared towards winning. When you lot go London Coley, you see legends. When you're at the Emirates, you see legends. You need to make it happen. But going back to Mikel Arteta, sometimes you have to let your nuts hang. Why did you take off Eze? You look at football too logical. Football is about probabilities and guesswork and all of that, and you've got that. But then there's that 10% as to why we always love football. Nobody knew Cherky was going to dance past players. Nobody knew when Szoboszlai licked in a free kick against City and United and Arsenal, apologies, that would have happened. It's those kind of things. Why, like, listen, I'm not saying Gyökeres would have scored, but what do you expect a man to do in 5 minutes? Why did you take off Eze? It's these kind of moments. I wish I could have a conversation with you, because what are you going, especially after Eze hit the post. Again, you're building this team on, I wouldn't say weak foundations, but it's like building it on weak foundations. You're going to have a nasty surprise if you think you can consistently allow Kai Havertz, and I'm not making about him, to lead the line, or whether there's injuries or not. Noni Madueke, I think he's gone a year without scoring in the Prem. Notice how the players have to take responsibility, but I'm not on you. I don't ask anything of a player that I don't think they have. And I think it's romantic. I also think it's silly. But when I look at it without emotions and just look at the 3 C's, confidence, competence, consistency, not too many of those players, once you get into the middle and the final third, have that level to win a league. It does surprise us and doesn't surprise us if Noni, if Trossard, if Kai Havertz, if Gabriel Martinelli, if Trossard, if I haven't said his name, if these guys turn up. And we said going into this season, a lot of the questions needed answers. We came into the season, yo, the gloves are off. It's time to deliver, boy. You had 4 opportunities. You're still in the champs, as pessimistic as I might be. And I'll say it again. I think, obviously, the manager and the players are responsible, yeah. But for me personally, the Champions League, the players have to go win me that if that's the case. The Premier League, the manager has to go win me that. And what I mean by that is, looking at the Champions League, whatever I think about the gaffer, we don't get embarrassed. Like, when we lose, we don't get embarrassed. Statistically, tactics, all of that kind of stuff. We're one of the best coach sides in the world, really and truly. And this is why I'm onto him more, because we're a competitive side. We're competitive again. We're a good side. We're not a great side. Great sides get over the line, go down in football and Arsenal folklore, yeah. But in the Champions League, I trust you to set us up. I trust you to plan, you know, assuming you got to the final for PSG, which we didn't get embarrassed against them last year, but fine margins, we weren't on the right side. But I trust Mikel Arteta to set us up in a way to do something against Bayern Munich, PSG, Atletico Madrid. But then all 3 of those teams can also do the same thing with Simeone, with Luis Enrique, with company to higher levels than us. And also on top of that, there could be realities where Arsenal are actually quite good for 89 minutes against all 3 of those teams. We're actually good across 2 legs. Well, for Atletico Madrid, we're actually good. We actually might even be on top. We might even be the best team. But the fine margins, when you just need 89 minutes to be the best team, at least say, like, Bayern could be under the cosh. At least he just slaps it bins. Kane's just scored a goal. I look at my attackers, I don't feel the same way. Unless your name is Gyökeres because you're in form. Eze at the moment, and a 17-year-old, 16-year-old Max Dowman. The Premier League, obviously the players have to go out there, but it's the gaffer. We have shot ourselves in the foot. We have not managed games well enough. We have conceded some shoddy goals. I think we've dropped off a cliff defensively. I don't care about the clean sheets. We're conceding too many cheap goals, too many easy goals that I didn't even see last season or the season before that. So if you dropped off several couple of levels defensively, if the midfield is mixed, if you're not in the same way, we're a great defensive side, and I know we score goals and all of that, but we're not a good attacking side. If I'm questioning the proactiveness in game management, which I did like the man-for-man press in our initial approach, Mikel, and credit to you and the boys, there was a reaction. You think you lot played a lot better than I thought, but unfortunately, when it was time to let your nuts hang, Eze needs to be out there. The good and the bad is because of the gaffer. Look at the scenario we're in, and fair enough, situations and teams evolve, but look at the front line. That never happened overnight. That's conscious choices. Who do you really believe in attack? Defense wins titles, goals win games. Where are they coming from? Because you coped against City, but when they had the moments, they took them. You coped last season against Paris Saint-Germain. When they had the moments, they took them. You haven't learned your lessons. If you look at Wolves away versus Wolves at home, we played at home first, right? We nicked it. Like, we conceded late and then bagged another goal. Look, the boys should have been like, fucking hell, I know they're bottom of the league, mad. Going into the game away from home, what happened? Relatively comfy for large parts of the game, 2 goals up, what happened? Brentford, what happened? Bournemouth, what happened? So when you're doing all of these kind of things and then you're going into City, which has become a must-win game, the performance was there. The problem is the performance was the best performance in a hot second for us since after the international break. The problem is you're now in the territory where it is just about results. It is just about results. So you shot yourselves in the foot, man. I won't believe we'll win a trophy until I physically see it. We shoot ourselves in the foot. We got to hold banter. You know, it's too little, too late. And Mikel Arteta, I think that's the best you've set us up tactically in a hot minute. I genuinely think that's one of the best times you've set us up across the Premier League this season. In terms of the tactical approach, that and Newcastle way, unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything because football is a results-driven business and it's results time, bro. Man said you might as well start playing FM again. That's the only trophy you're winning. Jokes on you. The women are going to bring something home, mate. What are you telling me? Hyper appreciate you. Why did he take off Eze instead of Odegaard returning from injury? Personally, I think Odegaard was decent yesterday. I think you have to let your nuts hang at that point. What's the difference between losing 3-1 or 2-1? Don't tell me about goal difference. Leave Eze on. I personally think Odegaard was doing all right. The game state was opening. If I'm really, really critical, City were better than us. Individually, those players stood up to be kind. Collectively, they stood up to be kind. They took their chances. You know, we had chances that we didn't take. You know, one does wonder the Haaland, the Gabriel header, the two from Kai, in fact, where Eze and Odegaard, something we haven't seen with those two on the pitch nearly as long as we'd have liked for this season. We had chances. We never took them. We never took them. And at some point, you got to let your nuts hang and say, fuck it. Eze starting to get into the groove. And if I'm honest, I did think at times, I think City, obviously, whatever they did worked in it. But towards the end of the game, they're booting the ball off for corners and throw-ins and stuff. And it felt like they thought, oh, there might be a last little roar from Arsenal. If there was a bit more aggression there, here you have it, man. End of the day, you were 9 points clear. You could have been into this 12 points clear. You've only Mikel Arteta and the boys, you only got yourself to blame. You only got yourself to blame, and you must love failure. I know you're not trying to lose games and all that, but you must love it. Because you keep doing the same things. And if nothing changes, unfortunately in life, nothing changes, innit? Well, big up yourself. To be fair, I wouldn't even take off Odegaard. Somehow you had to have Eze and Odegaard on the pitch. Because if you took off Odegaard, what do we normally see? Like, people get at Odegaard and he's got a lot of question marks here. And yes, he could do a lot more. But I do think, and I actually agree with a lot of these things, but when you 9 times out of 10, every team is coached well in the Premier League, right? Odegaard dropping deep and being a conductor allows other people to stay further up the field. Where naturally, if you've got Eze and Odegaard, that's 2 people helping out. We know about creative players at this football club. If the creative burden is just on one, you need movement, 2, you need different passing lanes. Keep them both on the pitch. Noni, I don't get vexed at Noni because you didn't buy yourself. I don't know how you looked at him and thought, yo, this could help us immediately. Obviously, your only hope now with Noni is the penny drops and he starts scoring goals. Noni, honestly, I believe this. You might go for your career is you're going to have good goal scoring returns on occasion. You know, when people in a rich runner form, they're bagging, you might slap him in his FPL. But to a degree, once you're 23, 24, this is who you are. Pardon me. Look at the attack you've amassed. Your playing days coming through Barca's academy, being at Arsenal, working as a coach at City. Look at what you've established. And it's even if I said that, you don't even play to players' limitations. Players that will thrive if you put the ball in behind, we're making them drop. Strikers that are service reliant. You're asking them to dance past players. Tired, man. This team has really let a large portion of the fan base down. I see man heartbroken out here. Rice could learn a lot by studying Lampard and Nessie, in my opinion. I do not have coaching badges. Yesterday's starting lineup shows he doesn't trust Gyökeres technically. He probably doesn't, but then at the end of the day, Gyökeres is not here if you don't sanction it. Let's have that right. Everyone that's at this club, not at this club, is because of the gaffer. So there had to be some level of a degree. I think Gyökeres is a very limited striker. I do believe if you slapped him in some certain other teams, whatever I think about Gyökeres, he would look a lot better than he does at Arsenal Football Club. Despite that, I do think his general play is improved. I do fuck with his mentality. I do think he's found form. And I probably would have went with Gyökeres yesterday, but I could cut the luxury of it didn't work in the League Cup final.